Welcome in, Heart Talkers, to another episode of Heart Talk. You know, if you've been around here for a while, that this is a space where we have everyday conversations with everyday people, navigating both the hard and hope filled seasons of life. And today I'm incredibly honored to bring in a good friend of mine, someone who I regard as a powerful entrepreneur, a creative, an artist, a trailblazer, someone who is passionate and dedicated to making change in spaces where traditionally I think there are have been stereotypes and roadblocks. And so welcome in to my friend Sarah Wawryk of Saskatoon Pole and Dance Studio. How are you, friend?
I'm good. How are you?
Listen, I'm ready to dance here. We've been meaning to do this recording for
For
years,
at least 2 years.
at least. But I think that everything happens at the right time. And this conversation today between you and I think for everyone listening, whether they are female or male, wherever they're coming from in their season of life, it is going to offer a lot of depth, I think. And there's a lot going on in the world right now. It's been an interesting week. So I wanted to start off with like, Sarah, before we get into who you are and what you do, I mean, what what is the state of the world like through your eyes today? Like if you could describe the world with three adjectives, what would you say?
Why is the first word that comes to my mind bumpy? I feel like
I love it.
um bumpy for whatever reason it like was the first thing that I'm like this is calling my name right now. So I would say the world feels very bumpy right now. A little restless in some
Mm,
ways. Um and I mean kind of to an extent like automated, I guess.
hmm Oh my gosh, I love those. I love those words. I mean, all words that maybe I think many of us are feeling the restless and just this like, oh my gosh, how did we get here? How is it 2026? And as
Mhm.
women, we're still raising girls and daughters and sons in a world that still has blatant misogyny and sexism and racism and oppression. And it feels like the more connected we have been via social media or in tech spaces, I mean, the farther away we're getting from one another. And
Yeah, I think we're missing a lot of our like community and like in-person connection right now.
yeah.
Yeah, because so much of it is so reactive online, or you're not getting um accurate kind of depictions of what's happening
hmm
virtually, right? It's
Absolutely. And that's where I think the power of what you do in building community and spaces where there are roadblocks, where there are stereotypes, where there are people who are feeling lonely and isolated and just are craving a sense of belonging in a world where there's so much judgment.
yeah.
So much judgment.
Yeah. And I know I've talked to you about it before, but coming from a point, I guess, of movement and really for me expression, and even as I've started to use my voice more over the years, to me, I always used dance as a way to express and to communicate with others. I used it to tell my story. I felt like I was always able to connect and to be able to share certain ways that I was feeling or what I was experiencing through movement. And so I never needed to use my words all the time. I was able to tell it through performance and to bring people and to kind of show them where I was at. So it's really special to be able to share that and to also see others connect with different styles of movement that way.
Yeah, and my husband and I were just talking about this yesterday. In a world that feels often lately very heavy and where you feel helpless and you just are like, what is going on? We still need access to joy and the things that light us up and the ways in which we can express ourselves, whether it be through art or music or movement or baking or whatever it is. And I think that whether you're listening today and you're a dancer or you're an artist or maybe you forgot what your hobby is and you don't do anything for fun or joy. This is your reminder is that the power of being able to your point, what you just said, you didn't always have to use your words because you were able to express yourself through movement and dance and how powerful that is. I think for kids as well, to be able to just get the emotion out. So
Yeah.
let's go back to little Sarah. So tell us a little bit about where you grew up, and how you were drawn into this world of movement and creative expression in arts and dance.
Yeah, I was very lucky growing up that my parents honestly just wanted me to experience so many different forms of art and movement. So I'm sure if you would have asked my dad, he thought that I was going to be a swimmer or like he wanted me to play golf or tennis. And so I got to do all of those lessons. I did art lessons growing up. And I just remember constantly being in something new. And I was actually older when I found dance, and older, I was 9. Um, so I was 9 years old, and I got invited to go to a hip hop class with one of my dad's golfing buddies' daughters. So it was just this like random connection that we knew we lived fairly close to each other. We could carpool. And so I ended up in this hip hop class. And after that year, the pals didn't want to continue on, but I did. And so I kept on taking hip hop classes for a few years. And then I dove into every dance style possible. And it was like everything else in my life kind of slowly just got pushed to the side, and dance became more and more important. It took a few years for me to start to teach little kids, and so we were in like an assistant dance program. I started teaching and helping alongside the main leaders of the studio, and then eventually that led into me teaching as well.
Amazing. And now you are the owner, founder of Saskatoon Pole Dance Studio.
Yes.
And you have created this, yeah, this beautiful community of dancers and artists, and you know, this opportunity to give women, and it's not just, is it just for women, or do you have some?
No, so the big thing for me opening up Saskatoon Pole Dance Studio is that I wanted it to be an inclusive
Yeah.
space. I came from a studio that was women focused, but there were so many times during the day where the pole community is a small one. Like we're still growing, and especially in Saskatchewan, there's so many stigmas attached to it. We don't have an industry here that we really get to see pole in any professional level.
Hmm.
And so when I started out at the studio that I was at, it was women only. And I remember as there's still clubs in Saskatoon that would have poles, and then patrons there would want to try them out. And so as it went on, unfortunately, I was, as an admin role, was told to say no to any male, anybody else inquiring about coming in and taking classes. And that was something that, sitting there and knowing like the studio's empty right now, like this person is not a threat. This person wants to come and explore movement and just come and train. Why am I saying no to them?
Hmm.
Was it really itched into why I wanted to open up an inclusive space for everybody. There's so much that I've gotten to learn over the years, and ways to create the safest space possible in Saskatoon. There's a lot of it that we're still learning. We're still always going to have to learn, and to make sure that we keep in touch with our community, right? Like their
Hmm.
needs and what's going on. But I've had to do a lot of digging on what a safe space means to me, and how I can include as many people in as possible, and ensure that anybody who walks in the door can feel safety.
That's why I have developed such a high respect for you, because in navigating spaces where these conversations can be difficult, there's stigma, there's stereotype, there's judgment. You've always done it with such grace and curiosity of like, how can we serve the community? How can we listen to the community? And I think that's where trailblazers and change really happens, when there is that softness, that kindness, that grace. And I'm really curious. So, in your experience running the studio, and your own personal relationship with movement and expression and your body, right? How has your relationship, and how have you seen the relationships of some of the dancers that attend the studio shift and change through the course of their involvement or your involvement in pole and dance?
I think opening up and coming in, whether it's whole sensual movement, there's so many different classes that we offer, that these things weren't introduced to us when we were little. And
Hmm.
so I think that's where, when you look at the full range of what we've got going on, it's incredible that in pole and sensual that there's such a vulnerability to it. And
Yeah.
so often that's where some nerves will come in for people coming in and going like, I've never moved like that before. But that's okay because we weren't taught to move like that. And so everybody's learning a new skill, and a lot of us are learning together and giving each other grace, where it's like, this doesn't feel sexy for me, but this move might. And so everybody learns at a different rate and learns to appreciate how their body moves and how they feel good. But on the other hand, when I teach a beginner tap class and I have a bunch of adults who have never danced before, want to come and learn how to tap, and they put on their first pair of tap shoes, and to see how they light up with just like
Hmm.
excitement from, my feet are making noise. They're you could literally just like see the inner childs of all of
Yeah.
them just like building, and like there's no better feeling to me seeing them just have fun, right? As we said,
Yeah.
so many people forget to have fun now, and I think
Hmm.
because there's so many things in this world that are feeling heavy, that some of the fun things that we can access are also starting to get affected by that. And so it's letting some of that go. Remember the feeling of like sitting on a swing for the first time and going a little bit too high and falling back, and that like nervous, like back and forth, right?
Yeah.
We want to be able to let go and just understand that, again, the safety's there. You're going to be caught. It's going to be okay.
And I think I mean, speaking for myself through the lens of a woman, is that it is difficult to let go and be vulnerable because we have been raised in a society that is steeped deeply in judgment of women, of our bodies, of the way we move. We should move, we shouldn't move. How should we act? How should we behave? Are we too sexy, not sexy enough, too provocative? Um, it's like I think about that monologue that comes from the Barbie movie, right?
Mm,
It's like it's never good enough. It's
yeah.
never good enough. And so the space that you've created has allowed, people to come in and just like lean into that, which is scary, I think, for people too. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well,
Hmm.
and I think, again, there's so many different like visuals that I can always imagine of, like when you're growing, it's not always this steep upwards incline. Like you're always gonna have bumps, and that's
Hmm.
something that when I go through and when I look at all of the changes that I've been through as a woman and going through, and I always think like when I look back at photos of myself when I first started pole when I was 20, like I should have felt so confident and
Mm.
incredible. And that was one of the times in my life where I was the hardest on myself. And
Mm.
then I feel empowered. I learn that I've got strength. I start to see these improvements, or I appreciate my body. But then all of a sudden, like a trauma happens. And so I experienced sexual violence. I experienced a relationship that I had a lot of ups and downs. And so then all of a sudden I hit rock bottom again, right? And then I'm
Hmm.
trying to find my value again. But the entire time while I'm going through all of this, I have movement,
Hmm.
and I might have to take a break from it, but I came back and learning how to be gentle and give myself some grace and to ease myself back up. Then all of a sudden that starts to build again. I start to get my confidence back. I'm feeling empowered. I get to move the way that I want to move. I get to be in touch with my body. And then pregnancy happens, and all of a sudden I'm like going through all these physical changes that I don't understand, that my body is experiencing for the first time, that, it's up and down. I go through a loss. And so it's like, it's all these ups and downs that each time I've been able to find myself back in movement and to appreciate the fact that, like, my body might not move the same that it did a decade ago. It might not
Hmm.
move the same that it did 6 months ago. My neck is really sore after doing a showcase this past weekend. So, like, there's always going to be these little bumps or things that set me back for a moment. But then I can find a new way to express myself through movement. I can find a different way that works for me functionally and to still express and have gratitude for what my body can do.
Yeah, so through the journey and through all of the bumps and the valleys and like you've always had dance and movement to come back to find yourself again. And I think that you beautifully described the journey of so many women. I mean, maybe not the same situations or the same traumas, but that, we lose ourselves, we find ourselves, we love our bodies, we hate our bodies, we are confident, we have completely lost touch with, our ability to find strength in who we are. I mean, it feels like for me as a 46-year-old, when I look back, like you said, would you look back at your 20, that is when you hindsight should have been the most confident if you would look at what the stereotypes and stigma of what a woman should look like. The same with me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I always thought that I was fat. And when I look back at those photos, I was like, I've never been that size again. You know,
Yeah.
because
But look
there's
at all the lived experiences and everything that we get to learn from, and again, then see and appreciate who you become.
absolutely. And I think that what's been really crazy cool for me to see since meeting you is that it has opened up even my own relationship with myself, just seeing what you do and how you create spaces to give people permission to just explore the vulnerability. Because so
Mhm.
often we don't open those doors, because
Yeah.
I know what I've found just through doing movement like yoga. Some of my most powerful emotional releases in times of difficulty in my life came after a yoga session.
Mhm.
I wasn't thinking about the trauma or the stress. I was just moving my body, and my muscles were holding on to so much of that emotion that after that session, I just released in a big way. Do you find that happens in the studio, that there are emotional releases and
Yeah, absolutely. It's really incredible to see or to know where we'll go through a class together. There'll be a group of people, and sometimes I have had people where, especially in contemporary or something where I'm already in the first place focusing on moving through emotion, that people will get emotional in class or will have a little like heart to heart
Mhm.
mid lesson. But even just to see the again community and connection that happens when people go into class and then come out and feeling vulnerable and being proud of themselves for what they've just accomplished. And then they want to come out, they want to sit on our couch and they want to share that with the next person. And so
Mhm.
it's really cool to see the bonds that have been created here. The people who have opened up about something that they've been holding on to or felt like they haven't been able to share with somebody else. And I do like my couch, and there's a reason why I have a sitting area in the studio because
Mhm.
before and after classes are some of my favorite times with people at the studio. It's so cool to see whether it is like the nerves before they go in and then talking with them afterwards, or like I said, them going in, seeing them accomplish something that they maybe didn't think they thought were they could do, and
Mhm.
then being able to celebrate that afterwards. But also sometimes that does come with a breakdown of like, I did not realize how
Mhm.
hard I was on myself.
Yeah.
And now look at what I can do.
Yeah, and I think that, and I hope you know how incredibly gifted you are in being that human connector, because you create this, I don't know, this grounding presence where I think just really permits people to be vulnerable. And not everybody can do that. So I hope you know that. I mean, that is such a gift. And I know that as an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur as well. Our friends are entrepreneurs. It is a battle, and there are times where it just feels like you got to quit, or you should quit, or you need to quit, or it's not enough, or it's not working out, or you're not hitting the goals. But when I think about, and I'm curious about what you think about this. When I think about the work that we can do as women, um, in the short time that we have on this planet, we are physiologically wired to help heal and to hold space. And those, I think, are some of the best gifts we can offer to our communities and to our families and to our loved ones. Because I think in return, we also get some healing. Do you feel that? Like being able to create that space, how has that circled back into your own healing journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think as you mentioned, being an entrepreneur is really hard. And I think being a human in this climate is hard. There's so
Mhm.
much. that when we're looking at all the hardships that we're facing, I feel so lucky that regardless of how hard everything is on paper, I feel fulfilled every time that I get to be in the studio. I feel
Mm,
fulfilled with every event that I get to attend, and I feel like I I get to see some of those small impacts
mhm.
and some of the larger ones too, right? Where like being able to have that connection, I think is what's missing for so many people.
Yeah.
The amount of misery that I'll see online or, some of the the harder things that we're facing, I just look and I'm like, how lonely are you? Like
Mhm.
how when is the last time that you have felt vulnerable in a space with other people? When was the last time you were given grace? Like when was the
Yeah.
last time that somebody was gentle on you or when you were gentle on yourself? And I think that that's again the coming together, and to see people do that together is this big missing chunk, because we get little blips of it, but a lot of us are so in our routine. And so the fact that my routine includes this social aspect, this community and connection, I know that I'm lucky. I know that
Yeah.
I have that beautiful side of it. And so it's so hard when the hardest days will come along and I'm like, I want to lay on my couch and I want to cry all day and I have to face all these emails that have been blocking up and these bills that I don't know how I'm going to pay and everything else going on. Then I get to walk into a class and I get to lead people through
Mhm.
something so exciting. And then all of a sudden I'm like, everything's going to be okay. Everything is
Yeah.
going to be all right.
And you have to think, Sarah, how many people, when you think about the workforce and people's careers and jobs, can come home at the end of the day and say, like, I feel fulfilled. That is a golden ticket.
Yeah.
And I think the double-edged sword for some of us who, yeah, are creating these spaces or following these entrepreneurial journeys is that the payoff in terms of like what we earn or how much we make or looking at that end of the business, maybe it doesn't add up but all the time. But what
Yeah.
keeps us going is that it's the human work. It's the real heart work. I mean, that is a gift. It's a golden ticket. I've said that to my children too. I said, when you think about what you want to do in life, I want you to think about what do you really love?
Hmm.
What lights you up? And what's going to make you feel good at the end of the day? Because we all have to go back to families and spouses and bills and hard stuff at the end of a work day. And it's so much easier to go back to that when you've come from a day of like, man, that was the best day ever. And so it's been such a gift to see that you have created those spaces. And I know that you touched a little bit on how dance has been so empowering and so healing for you, and you've gone through some pretty big traumas in your life, and some of those have led you to being involved in a project called the You Are More project. So I want to talk a little bit about that because I think too there's so much going on in the world right now and so much that's being revealed in terms of violence against women and
Hmm.
sexual violence against women. And I feel like we collectively as society have become numb and desensitized, where it's like
Hmm.
we hear some of these traumas so often that I mean, like, is it even sinking into the level of like, okay, what is going on here? So let's talk about the You Are More project. I'd love for you to share that with the listeners.
Absolutely. I feel very lucky that I was introduced to the founder of You Are More. We actually were both nominated for the Women of Distinction Award, the YWCA Awards. And so that was a part of where I got to get to know Lindsay a little bit better. Lindsay also is good friends with one of the instructors here at the studio. And so Lindsay got to come and kind of get a brief experience of what we offer. And then the more we got to know each other, the more we realized how much a lot of our work really aligned. Lindsay and I had both experienced sexual violence, and I think for both of us, we realized how effective it was to have movement as a part of our healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that I've again started to open up about it, you were the first person to invite me out to share
Mm-hmm.
about my personal story, because I had never said it out in words before you had me on for a panel for one of your Stronger Together
Mm-hmm.
events. And
Yeah, I
so
remember that. That was a powerful night. Powerful
yeah,
night.
and so there's so much of it that I think there's so much shame. And for me, it was a really hard experience. And it took me a long time to really be able to vocalize what I had gone through. But again, I had this movement piece of it where to me, I started finding my own autonomy again, that I I remember just through a lot of those experiences, it was so hard. And I have challenging days where I don't feel like my body is my own, right? In between. And I think that this can happen through trauma, through motherhood. There's so much that often, and I'll tell my husband, like the overstimulation of just like,
Yeah.
if I have 30 minutes to sit at the house, and at some point in time I will have my husband who wants to come and poke me, I will have children who want to come crawl sit on my lap, or I've got animals, like I don't have a moment that I really get to sit and be in my own body. And so that's a large part too of why I love dance. And I will always take the time to go to a class, to teach a class, because that is my me time to
Mm-hmm.
get back in my own body. um but I really appreciated that the You Are More project, seeing it grow throughout the years. A lot of their events will be focused around movement.
Mm-hmm.
But we've also got our big event coming up this Friday, the Gathering, that it's our annual. They kind of sit down, they have a panel. And so the panel each year has been incredible to have important conversations surrounding whether, victims, allies, everybody's welcome in the space. They do a non-alcoholic event, and the entire event has art experiences and interactive ways to kind of show. And I last year I actually experienced, they brought in a rug tufter, and I did not realize how incredible rug tufting is. And if I had an additional like however many hours in a week, everybody in my life would be getting a rug, because it was so, to me, I don't know what it was about the method of just like
Mm-hmm.
going through in this artistry of doing something creative, and to make a rug, and just like I don't know, the instructions were so straightforward of just like, this is what you have to
Yeah.
do, seeing that result right in front of you. And I loved it. I was like at the rug tufting station for a lot of last year. So I'm super excited for all of the experiences that they're bringing in this year. There's always an art auction. We have a Threads of Strength campaign, which is the clothing and the articles. I wish that I had one on me right now, but I don't. That the sweatsuits are just
Mm-hmm.
incredible. And so anytime that there's somebody in the hospital needing to go through the rape kit, which is such an awful experience in the first place, it's just, we wanted to be able to gift a sweatsuit and some I'm going to lose all of my words today, but just to have these things that they can take with them, because
Yeah.
often if you don't have support that you're going in with, you're often left in the clothes that you show up in or in the hospital gowns. And so we wanted to not only retail out all the items so that it's not like only victims have these sweatsuits, but also it's got beautiful messaging on the sleeves. It either says you are not alone or you are brave.
Wow.
And yeah, the work that Lindsay's done, she's just such an incredible leader. And so I feel very grateful that I get to be on this board,
Mm-hmm.
and to see the impacts of the work that they'd done prior to me being on the board, and to see the continuation and the growth. We're launching a new holistics therapy fund. And so again, survivors can apply in, and we can give support in ways of whether it is, we've got a bunch of partners that we're working with in different movement forms. So there's so many wonderful collaborations and communities that come together through You Are More. So to see everybody connect on a matter that's so heartbreaking
Yeah.
is so beautiful. To see everybody come together and again get to heal together.
Yeah. So, for anyone listening today who has maybe experienced trauma or sexual violence and who has not yet found, a community or a place to land, how can they find the You Are More project and reach out?
Yeah, so youaremoreproject.ca is our website. There's a ton of information on there, but also the Instagram page is a wonderful resource. We often work alongside the Saskatoon Sexual Assault Information Center as well. So there's a lot in between the two foundations that are wonderful for resources, for education. But a lot of the leaders within both communities as well are just, they're incredible to look at. And so, yeah, I do feel like it's amazing that I even get to sit amongst these people most of the time because they just have such a beautiful impact. Um, and I do feel like there are some of the other board members who are just like the education that they bring in is stunning. It's just to listen to them share, um, whether it's their experiences or their resources.
Hmm.
It is such a wonderful thing that they do. So yeah, Instagram, website, or
Gosh,
the events.
perfect.
We have the gathering, which I believe there are still a few tickets left for this Friday, but they also do a Free to Be festival in September, which is
Yes.
a wonderful one to be at, especially if you do want to experience more through movement, because we bring together a bunch of different movement centers, and so everybody it's like tasting different classes throughout the day, and then we do like a community picnic. And so there's so many beautiful pieces of that to come together.
Yeah, I really admire the strength and vulnerability it takes also for you and the board to create this space. Because I mean, we don't live in a world yet, I think, that gives the grace and the opportunity for women to be fully heard and fully seen. And it makes me sad, but I think that after having conversations with you and seeing the work that you're involved in, it gives me hope for, yeah, for the next generation of women. There's so much work to do still, isn't there?
Absolutely. Well, again, and
Oh,
I
for
mean, being a
women.
parent, right? Like there's so
Mm-hmm.
much that even looking back and knowing, I mean, when I was going through experiences and just knowing where to, there's so many people in my life who didn't know what
Yep.
I experienced. And then I started publicly speaking on it, right? And so to all of a sudden get some information of somebody where I'm like, there's a lot of people that I care about deeply in my life, but I was never able to say it out loud. And now I'm screaming it. And it's a very hard thing to face, and there's a lot of awkward and hard conversations that I have to have now. And I remember when I first opened up to my parents about it, I actually like I couldn't verbally say it. I texted my parents while they
Yep.
were on a trip, and that's how I broke the news to my parents of what I was experiencing. And I couldn't tell them everything either. Like I there
Yeah.
was a lot that I didn't want to open up about. But in having these conversations and then seeing a lot of that, I know that I can't protect my kids from the world. I can't like
Mm-hmm.
there's so much that they're going to have to face and that they're going to have to overcome. And at the end of the day, I want to create and continue to hopefully see these spaces come where support will be in place
Mm-hmm.
if and when something occurs right in their life. Like it's I thought that I don't want to say I was naive. Like I had a very privileged upbringing, and in, you know, even my mother's position being a professional and career woman, I never thought that I would see the day that I would be saying out loud, I've been sexually assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I thought was going to protect me from that, but it wasn't something I ever envisioned for myself. But we also look at the different sexual harassments and things that we've experienced as women. And I like my first experience, I was 13. Like it occurs, and there's some that I wanted to turn a blind eye to. And the more that you look back and go, oh yeah, okay, that wasn't okay. And there's so many things that we can look at and go, like, we lived it. The world was a very different place
Yeah.
20 years ago. Um, but it's things that going through and looking like how can I heal from that, and why did I have this pressure to feel like I needed to say yes to people when I didn't want to? Why did I have to navigate going through, like I said, one of the hardest relationships I've experienced that gave me the most trauma, but also was somebody who claimed to love me deeply,
Yep.
right? Like there's so many challenges in facing those relationships, and then to be able to speak out on them afterwards and to know that healing can come. It's it's again not that linear line. Like there are
Yeah.
still days that something will shake me to my core, and you've been
Yeah.
there for me on some of those days, right? Like
Mm.
things and information will always come out, and and I know that I repressed some of the memories of what I
Yeah.
experienced, and so to also verbally talk about it, and even like at the panel, I mean, every time you've seen me talk about it, I'll end up crying
Yeah.
because as
Because it
you're
was
opening up
hard
about
and
some of
it
these
was
things, it was
horrible and it
hard and it
was
was horrible. And also like things all of a sudden, like I'll bring up one thing and then that'll lead me to another memory of going like, oh my gosh, like
Mhm.
that was what I had to go through. And to say it in front of an audience that then you get these connections afterwards of people going like, I've also been there or I've done that. And then you get to see you're not alone through
Yeah.
all of this. There is hope that, at the end of the day, when we do speak out, that again, people can hold space, can hold grace, and you're believed, and that we can create a better place moving forward.
And build these communities of safe spaces where, like you said, we can't protect and shelter our girls, our sisters, our daughters, our mothers, from the world. But what we can do is create these safe spaces of community and places to fall and land when it's time to heal. I'd love for you to leave the listeners before I mean, oh my gosh, time just flies. Holy cow. I'd love for you to leave the listeners with like a piece of advice or wisdom or something that you'd want women to know, whether it be about celebrating their own worthiness, their bodies, navigating both the hard and hope-filled days as women. Leave us with a little nugget of inspiration that maybe something that you've pulled from or from your journey. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, my usual kind of nugget is it doesn't matter whether it's a dance class, a walk along the river. It doesn't matter if it's, dropping in on a friend just to visit and say hi. It doesn't matter if it's going and buying something for yourself online, but just to treat yourself and take the time for you and and to find those little bits of joy that you can every day.
Yeah, I love it. It's as simple and as hard as that, isn't it?
I think a lot of it we just need to simplify.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a
Like
huge part.
like I said the other day, I posted the highlight of my weekend was my 7-year-old saying the best day of his life was water sliding and eating pizza from Swan's Pizza. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just like that's as simple as it can get.
Life is complicated enough. We can
Yeah.
strip it back a little bit, literally and figuratively.
Yeah, and find that and find your community. Find your literally and figuratively. I love it. Find your community, that sense of belonging, whether it be you joining a knitting club or a rug latching. Oh my gosh, I'm intrigued about that. Or baking or go try a class. I can't, I said to my husband this year, I have just always felt like I have an inner hip hopper. You know what I mean? It's like I just feel like I need to just crank it out, with some
I'm
hip
ready
hop.
for you. We're gonna do it. This is the year.
This is the year. And like, who knows? Maybe I'll become a sensation. You just never know. TikTok sensation or something. It's never too late to try something new. But I'm really looking forward to joining you at the gathering this weekend. And you do such beautiful work. I'm so honored that you sat heart to heart with me. And just know that you are making an incredible difference in the lives of so many people. So thank you so much, friend.
Thank you for having me.